Sir, do you understand all the pending charges and the maximum possible penalties involved? And it's my understanding that you want to resolve both cases today. Is that correct?
New footage just dropped, and this ain't no ordinary courtroom clip. This was the exact moment that shattered 6 years of so-called brotherhood. The second YNW Bortlen sat only inches away from YNW Melly and quietly agreed to a deal that could send his former friend straight to death row. One decision, one signature, and the streets started buzzing that loyalty in the YNW camp was officially dead.
As to all the charges that you're facing, the maximum possible penalties are as follows. It's life in Florida State Prison, followed by 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 75 years in Florida State Prison. Do you understand the charges and the maximum possible penalties involved? And in exchange for all of that, the state is offering that I would adjudicate you guilty and sentence you to the bottom of your sentencing guidelines. But if you don't accept it, and one of these trials doesn't go your way, and you end up with life in Florida State Prison, which is a mandatory.
The prosecutors finally got what they wanted, Bortlen's cooperation. And what he agreed to spill might just be the final nail in Melly's coffin. This footage hit the internet on September 9th, 2025, and the impact was immediate. It tore through Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and every gossip blog you can name, pulling in hundreds of thousands of views in hours. But make no mistake, this wasn't just another routine court date. This was a cultural earthquake. Both Melly and Bortlen were caught on camera, locked up in them red Broward County jumpsuits, looking drained, like the weight of the world was sitting heavy on their shoulders. But that courtroom silence spoke louder than words. This wasn't just another hearing. This was the day Bortlen, a man once branded Melly's brother for life, made a choice that split the hood right down the middle.
Wait, did he say leaving a party? That's a lie if Bortlen said that. They were leaving the studio.
Facing 5 life sentences plus 75 extra years, he chose survival. And in the process, sparked one of the ugliest debates hip-hop has ever seen about loyalty, betrayal, and what it really means to keep it 100. See, this story ain't new. This double murder case has been dragging on for over 7 years, circling back to October 26, 2018. That's when Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. and Anthony YNW Sackchaser Williams were gunned down inside an SUV in Miramar, Florida. At first, everyone thought it was just another drive-by, enemies sliding through and catching the crew slipping. But when forensic evidence came back, the whole narrative collapsed instantly. Ballistics, trajectories, and GPS data all pointed one way. Those bullets didn't come from outside the vehicle. They came from inside the whip itself. And that's when the state's story got dark. Prosecutors painted Melly as the triggerman fueled by jealousy, money issues, and ego battles within the YNW crew, executing his own brothers in cold blood, while Bortlen played the wheelman, staging the scene to make it look like an outside hit.
I would have to impose mandatory court costs in each case, and I would have to impose a mandatory cost of prosecution in each case, which is $100. So
$100. Comment down below right now. Do you think he's going to switch on Melly? They didn't say anything about testifying, but the state has to do that, right? There's no way they go from 5 life sentences to 16 years and not want him to testify.
The most twisted part? These weren't just some random dudes chasing clout. These 4 were supposed to be family, locked in as the YNW banner, Young and Naya World, which stood for brotherhood, struggle, and unity. They built their identity on loyalty, on the image of brothers coming up together from nothing. But according to the state, success poisoned all of that, turning loyalty into betrayal, love into hate, and dreams into death. And the evidence? Brutal. Forensic experts testified that the bullet angles made it impossible for an outside shooter to be responsible. Cell phone data showed movements that lined up too perfectly with the theory of an inside job. And when those details surfaced, the hip-hop community realized this wasn't just a tragedy. This was a Shakespearean-level betrayal playing out in real time. The timeline was shaky enough, but then came the most chilling piece of evidence. Them alleged Instagram DMs, where Melly supposedly typed out a straight-up confession.
as to all the charges that you're facing, the maximum possible penalties are as follows. It's life in Florida State Prison, followed by 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 75 years in Florida State Prison.
Prosecutors claimed he wrote, "Shh, I did that," while talking about his own fallen friends. Those little digital footprints became the prosecution's smoking gun, the type of evidence that leaves jurors' jaws on the floor. And when the viral footage hit the internet, it captured something way rawer than paperwork or courtroom testimony ever could. The clip shows the exact second one of the co-defendants decided he wasn't going to rot in prison for anybody, not even his day one. That's the betrayal that cut through the screen like a blade.
Gang, there's too many people snitching, bro. I would have took the plea right there, bro. Bruh, Your Honor, you don't gotta finish, bro. Just let me out of here, bro.
First posted by Say Cheese DGTL on Twitter, the footage shows Bortlen in his red jumpsuit, hands folded tight, calmly nodding his head while the terms of his plea deal got read out loud. Across the table, Melly sat stone-faced, looking like he already knew his so-called brother had just thrown him under the bus. That visual was heavy. Two young kings who once stood side by side on stage, in the studio, chasing fame together, now divided by a gulf bigger than any prison wall. You can feel the tension, the betrayal, and the collapse of loyalty in every frame. And maybe that's why this clip spread like wildfire. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, even legal blogs couldn't stop reposting it. The original upload clocked over 200,000 views in hours, with hip-hop commentators, lawyers, and fans all dissecting the look in Melly's eyes and the quiet nod from Bortlen. But to understand why this shook the streets so bad, you gotta break down what Bortlen actually agreed to.
Oh, hell nah. Yo, you know what I would have said? You know what I said? Your Honor, pass me that goddamn bologna sandwich and take my phone number, cause sorry, nigga, I'm finna go home. Come on, bruh. Come on, bruh. Just pass me the bologna sandwich, man. Pass me the bologna sandwich and let's get this shit going on, man.
The plea deal he took on September 9th wasn't some everyday courthouse negotiation. No, the hood is calling this the ultimate finesse, a chess move that just might have sealed Melly's doom. Think about what Bortlen was staring at before this deal. Homie wasn't just looking at a little bid. He was staring down 5 life sentences plus 75 years in Florida State Prison. That's forever times 5. No chance of parole, no sunlight, no freedom ever again. The charges stacked against him were insane. 2 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm, which in Florida is automatic life if convicted, plus accessory after the fact, witness tampering in a capital case, conspiracy, running a criminal organization, and even illegal communication charges. Each one alone could have buried him for decades. And here's where things turn shocking.
By the way, he should beat those charges, Chad. Like, he didn't murder the guys. It's really alleged that Melly did it. However, they charge him with murder in case he was in on it, but there's no proof he was in on it.
The state offered him a deal that started at 16 years, but after backroom talks, it got negotiated down to just 10 years flat. 10 years for a man the state painted as the wheelman in a double homicide. To the streets, that looked less like mercy and more like a trade. Freedom in exchange for turning on the man who once called him brother. When you really do the math, the numbers are wild. Bortlen's been locked since 2019, meaning he's already sat 6 years behind bars. With this new deal, he could walk out in just 4 more years, then do 6 on paper. That flips his whole destiny. From a man staring down 5 life sentences plus 75 years, guaranteed to die in a cage, to someone who might touch the streets again, while he is still young enough to rebuild his life. That ain't just luck. That's a courtroom miracle. But like the streets say, if something sounds too good to be true, there's always a catch. And the catch here is the proffer.
Judge seemed reasonable, but I do think the judge is pushing for him to take it. You know, most, charges and cases are really resolved by plea deals. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think they have that much on him.
That means after sentencing, Bortlen's got to sit down face-to-face with prosecutors and spill everything he knows. For the state, this is where things get lethal for Melly. Because that proffer session is all about digging deep. Every detail about YNW Juvie and Sackchaser S deaths. Every move, every cover-up, every piece of inside info the state can use to connect dots and bury Melly at his retrial. Now here's where the lawyer talk started playing tricks on the public. Bortlen's attorney, Fred Haddad, tried to smooth it over, saying, yeah, his client agreed to the proffer, but no, he won't be cooperating in Melly's trial. That's classic lawyer word games. It's meant to sound clean, but anyone who's ever been around the system knows better. You don't walk away from 5 life sentences and end up with a 10-year slap on the wrist unless you re-giving up something major. And real talk, Bortlen doesn't even have to take the stand and point fingers for Melly to be in danger. The info he drops in that closed-door proffer could still wreck Melly's defense. Prosecutors can use his words to cross-check evidence, hunt down new witnesses, or find proof they didn't even know existed before. That's why the streets are calling this one of the coldest flips in rap history. The timing of the deal made it even crazier. Bortlen signed this plea literally hours before his own trial was set to begin. Last-minute chess moves that screamed desperation and hard bargaining behind closed doors. Even the judge looked stunned when the terms came out, like he couldn't believe how light the sentence ended up.
The reason that I'm doing this is because I want the record to be clear what the state's offer was, and the record to be clear that you understood it and that you had enough time to talk to your lawyers about it.
But the part that hits the hardest? What it says about the bond between Melly and Bortlen. These weren't just collaborators. They were supposed to be family. Two kids who came up from the same dirt, turned struggle into music, and built a movement under the YNW banner. That was supposed to mean loyalty forever. Brotherhood stronger than money, stronger than fame. And yet, the state's narrative since day one has been that this family fell apart under pressure, jealousy, ego, and greed poisoning everything from the inside. If that's true, then Bortlen's last-minute decision wasn't just survival. It was the final betrayal. Bortlen's move, his former brother flipping, feels like the final nail in the coffin of whatever bond the YNW crew once had. The viral footage made that reality crystal clear. You don't even need audio to know what chess going on. Their body language says it all. Bortlen sits there sharp, focused, maybe even relieved, like a man who just found his lifeline after years staring at the abyss. Melly, on the other hand, keeps that cold poker face he's worn since day one. But you can't help but wonder what's running through his head. Watching his day one take a deal that trades Melly's possible life sentence for his own second chance at freedom. That's the kind of tension you can feel through the screen, and that tension has split the hip-hop community in half. Some argue Bortlen did the only logical thing, choosing life over a code that would have had him rotting in a cell until death.
Based on body language, I can't tell. I would guess he's gonna stay solid and not snitch, but who knows, bro. This is a lifeline for him. 16 years, bro? He'd be a free man at like 40 years old or something. He could still live a life.
Others see it as the ultimate betrayal, breaking the unwritten law of loyalty that's supposed to define how real ones move when the walls close in. The debate turned even hotter once people started comparing this move to other high-profile rap cases where cooperation came into play. The streets got long memories, and when somebody breaks the code, forgiveness is almost impossible. The comparisons came fast and heavy. Social media branded Bortlen's deal as another Gunna plea, linking it to the YSL case that had the entire rap game debating who's real and who's not. Just like Gunna, Bortlen is now facing that permanent scarlet letter in the culture. Once the streets tag you a rat, it's career-ending stigma that follows you for life. Hip-hop blogs, YouTube commentators, even legal experts all piled in with takes, some saying survival should come first, others swearing Bortlen can never be respected again. But beyond the headlines, hashtags, and messy arguments online, the real danger lies in what this means for Melly moving forward. His retrial was supposed to start on September 10, 2025, but constant appeals, motions, and evidence disputes pushed it back all the way to January 2027. That means Melly is looking at over 8 years in a cell before his retrial even begins. 8 years locked up without a final conviction. And here's the nightmare scenario. Whatever Bortlen drops in that proffer session could flip Melly's whole case upside down. Even if Bortlen never testifies in open court, the prosecutors can weaponize his statements to line up evidence, build new angles, or recruit fresh witnesses that might have stayed quiet before. With his day one feeding the state crucial information, Melly's defense could crumble in ways nobody saw coming. The deal wasn't just a legal strategy. It might be the single move that decides whether Melly walks free one day or dies behind bars. If Bortlen comes forward and confirms that Melly pulled the trigger, and worse, lays out the step-by-step details of how they staged the whole cover-up, the state's case instantly transforms from shaky speculation to a deadly narrative.
Because at that point he was a victim. They didn't really think he was involved in killing the two people yet. Bortlen's lawyer, Haddad, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I've never heard him do cross, so this is the first time hearing.
Proceeded to the Miramar Hospital because of dispatch.
Yes, sir.
Dispatch all units. How many police charges ended up being?
I don't recall. A good amount. I wouldn't say everybody because there's a whole city to patrol. Good approximate.
Yeah.
When I arrived on scene, it was just about 3 or 4 units on scene.
3 or 4. On left eye.
Probably 10 to 12.
Remember, Melly's first trial back in 2023 ended in a mistrial because the jury couldn't agree. They split 9-3 in favor of acquittal on one count, but couldn't lock in a final decision. That alone gave Melly's camp hope. But now, Bortlen's words could become the missing piece prosecutors have been begging for. Here's the crazy part. The state has always had a case built on technicals, not motives. They had strong forensics, bullet trajectories proving shots came from inside the SUV, not from outside. And they had them shady Instagram DMs where Melly allegedly wrote, "Shh, I did that," about his fallen friends. But what they never nailed down was why. Why would Melly kill two of his closest friends and business partners? The defense hammered that hole, arguing there was no beef, no receipts, just prosecutors spinning a story about jealousy and clout. That's where Bortlen becomes dangerous. His proffer could fill in the blanks. Conversations nobody else heard, motives nobody else could confirm, details that prosecutors have been desperate to paint in. If he can tell them what was said in those final hours, how the plan was set up, or what the motive really was, then suddenly the case looks bulletproof. On the flip side, if his story doesn't match the state's theory, or worse, backs up Melly's innocence, it could backfire and strengthen the defense. That's the gamble. But here's what legal experts keep stressing. The damage Bortlen can do might not be as explosive as the streets think. Because his proffer came after sentencing, his leverage is gone. He already got the deal. 10 years locked in. Prosecutors can't dangle extra favors now. Which means Bortlen could play it safe, stay vague, or pull the classic "I don't remember" routine without facing new consequences.
That's a big question I kept asking in the Melly trial. If it wasn't Melly that shot them, then who was it? Where did this drive-by shooting happen? Because apparently there's no evidence of one.
Even in his statement, he says, "I'm not from here. I'm not familiar with there." So we gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, people get lost all the time. They might think they're on Miramar Parkway, but actually on Pembroke Road or Pines Boulevard. It's understandable. So he said, "You know what? Just ride with Detective Toyota and show him where it happened." I don't know his exact words, but he didn't object. He wasn't in handcuffs. It was an unmarked police unit, not a cage in the back of that car. So
that's why some believe his cooperation might end up being more smoke than fire. And another complication, whether his info can even make it into court. Melly's lawyers are already preparing to challenge any use of the proffer, claiming it was coerced, unreliable, or covered by immunity protections. They'll fight to keep it out of the retrial at all costs. So while the headlines scream betrayal, the legal reality could be far murkier. But zoom out and the picture is bigger than just Melly versus Bortlen. This case has turned into a mirror reflecting huge cracks in both hip-hop culture and the justice system. The endless delays, the controversial way prosecutors handle rap defendants, and the non-stop social media trial happening in parallel. It all shows how broken the system can look when celebrity and the streets collide. For Melly personally, though, the storm is closing in. He's already spent over 6 years in a cage waiting for a real verdict, and now he's facing 2 first-degree murder charges in his retrial. Prosecutors are still pushing the death penalty, and thanks to Florida's 2023 law change, they don't need all 12 jurors anymore. Just 8 out of 12 to vote death. That lowers the bar and raises the stakes to the absolute max. If Bortlen's words push even a handful of jurors to lean guilty, Melly could be staring at execution instead of acquittal. Meanwhile, Melly's complaints about his jail conditions keep hitting headlines. His November 2024 lawsuit against Broward County Jail accused officials of cruel and unusual punishment, 23-hour isolation, denial of basic privileges, even medical neglect. The case has faced legal pushback, but it's still alive. For a man staring down execution, those claims paint a picture of crushing psychological pressure. But the truth is, it's even darker than just paperwork. Leaked videos and reports suggest Melly has been caught up in multiple altercations behind bars, with clips allegedly showing him getting jumped by other inmates. Word on the street is that his high-profile status, the isolation, and the weight of a double murder case have made him an easy target. Locked up this long, on charges this serious, survival isn't about music or fame anymore. It's about watching your back every single day, knowing any wrong step could be deadly. And then, there's the viral footage itself, the plea moment that turned the courtroom into internet content. It raises bigger questions. How did justice become entertainment? How did 2 men's lives, hanging in the balance, get reduced to clips and reaction videos across TikTok and YouTube? The way this footage spread shows just how much celebrity culture and criminal justice now overlap in a world where tragedy gets consumed like primetime drama. Looking ahead, the timeline is still foggy. Melly's retrial isn't set until January 2027, meaning another year and a half of limbo, legal battles, and endless speculation. Bortlen, meanwhile, is expected to serve his remaining time quietly, staying low while working toward his release date. But not everyone can fade into the background. The families of YNW Juvie and YNW Sackchaser, who've stayed mostly silent, continue fighting for justice. They see Bortlen's plea as partial accountability and are pushing civil lawsuits, demanding not only justice in court, but also financial compensation for the lives lost. Strip away the headlines, and the human cost of this saga hits hardest. 2 young men are gone forever. 2 others, once their brothers, are watching their lives and careers collapse in real time. Entire families, on both sides, have been broken by violence and betrayal. And the viral clip that everyone shared on September 9th, 2025. That wasn't just a trend. It was the moment that defined the downfall. Either the beginning of long-awaited justice or the cold reality of loyalty collapsing under the weight of self-preservation. In the streets, your word is your bond. Once that bond is broken, there's no rewind button. Whether Bortlen made the smartest move of his life or sold his soul for freedom will be debated in hip-hop for years to come. And as Melly's fate hangs in limbo, one thing is clear. This case will go down as one of the most infamous tragedies in rap history, a tale of brotherhood, betrayal, and the brutal price of survival when the system closes in.